Yo, what's up with it, y'all? It's JD, travelsthenix, and I'm back with another quick video. And today's video is going to be about Sao Paulo versus Rio de Janeiro. Which place is better to visit? Which place has more to offer? Before we get started with the video, if you're new to the channel and you're interested in travel and fitness content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can get all the latest content. If you're already subscribed to the channel, thanks for checking out the video. Go ahead and give the video a like and let's get into it. So I want to start off by talking about what I think Rio has over Sao Paulo. And number one, I would say the weather. Rio has warm weather. It's closer to the equator, so the weather is warmer. There's always nice coastal breezes. The sun is shining. It's good to be out soaking up the sun. From what I'm told and from what I've also experienced, Sao Paulo is notorious for rain, and it rains often. And by often I mean when I've been in Sao Paulo. But the weather in Sao Paulo is far from being bad. It's warm and the humidity feels good, but I know this is less of a breeze, and not having a beach to chill at on a hot and humid day kind of makes it less enjoyable. So the next thing that Rio has over Sao Paulo is the beach. The weather and the beach in Rio is pretty much a package deal. Rio has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. The backdrops to these beaches are amazing just to look at. The water's pretty cold, but it's refreshing to get in on a hot day. If you're in Copacabana or Ipanema Beach, it's more about the kick it on the beach than it is actually getting the water anyway. They sell drinks and food on the beach, or you can go right off the beach and get food and alcohol while enjoying the views and chilling at the beach. People are playing music, sports, or just relaxing on the beach. Another thing that's dope about Rio beaches are the blocos. They shut down the street right off the beaches and have block parties right by the beach, so you can kick it, eat, drink, dance, and still get that beach mountain backdrop at the same time. And the next thing I would say that Rio has over Sao Paulo is just the simplicity of the place. You can pretty much simplify your trip in Rio de Janeiro. With the hot weather and the beach, all you really need to wear is tank tops, shorts, and flip-flops. You don't really need to trip off of trying to stay too much in style or, dressing too fly or anything like that. As long as you got your shades on, your tank top, your shorts, you comfortable, you're dressed appropriate for the weather, you good. It's a beach spot, so everything's relaxed and laid back. You don't need to be in a rush. You can walk around. In worst case scenario, you can just chill at the beach the whole trip, and it's no shame in doing that. When I was in Rio, I did a ton of walking because a lot of areas are in close proximity for the most part. You can walk from Leblon to Ipanema to Copacabana to Botafogo. All of those places have a little different vibe, even though they're so close. You can go to the local malls, local cafes, and the local bars and just chill. Rio has some good cafes with some awesome pastries, and I would definitely recommend getting some of those when you go out there. So next, let's talk about Sao Paulo. So what do I like about Sao Paulo more than Rio de Janeiro? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the nightlife. Rio has good nightlife as well, but I prefer the nightlife in Sao Paulo. Pico, Villa Madalena, and other areas in Sao Paulo have a wide array of bars, clubs, lounges, and in my opinion, they just have nicer venues. These are spots you can go to chill and meet friends for drinks, hookah lounges to chill at, or clubs where you can turn up. I like how Villa Madalena has so many good quality spots you can go to, and then when you want a different vibe, you can dip to the next spot. You can go to a samba spot and then walk 2 or 3 minutes down the road and be at a cracking hip hop spot. Honestly, I feel like the biggest reason I like the nightlife in Sao Paulo more than Rio is just the overall vibes. Rio's a tourist spot, and when you're in a tourist spot, locals tend to try to price gouge, or they just look at you in a certain way. That could be with the women, with the vendors, or just the way people look at you like a mark sometimes. Not saying I've had any bad experience in Rio, but my personal interactions and meeting people at bars, lounges, and clubs in Sao Paulo have just been much better. I feel like Sao Paulo has hella cool ass women who have a lot going on for themselves, so if you're looking to meet women, you can probably find some cool ones in Sao Paulo. Next thing about Sao Paulo that I like over Rio is the cost of living. Although the cost of visiting Rio and Sao Paulo are both cost effective to visit, especially when you're coming from countries like Canada, the USA, or many European countries, Sao Paulo is still a little bit cheaper. Starting off, Airbnbs are cheaper. You can get more bang for your buck, and the apartments that you rent on Airbnb in Sao Paulo are going to be way nicer and in newer buildings. I stayed at some dope spots in both places, especially that penthouse spot in Rio, but they got some player ass buildings and pads in Sao Paulo. For instance, the last spot me and my homie stayed at in Sao Paulo was only $38 a night. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom spot. It had a hammock, 24-hour security, and it was in a really nice neighborhood called Pinheiros. Nightlife is a bit cheaper in Sao Paulo, with the exception of going to Lapa in Rio, where you can order drinks off the street vendors and go from bar to bar. When I was in Copacabana and Ipanema, I felt like the bars and clubs I went to are a little bit too expensive. At this one spot I went to in Ipanema called DNA Lounge, I ran up like a $50 tab one night, and I didn't even really feel like I drank that much. And if you're in Brazil, $50 is a lot to spend while you're going out. When you go out in Sao Paulo, there's also street vendors all over the place. And it seems like the drinks in the spots where I went out to were pretty reasonable. I'd probably say on average, usually a drink is about $4. Most nights when I went out in Sao Paulo, I probably didn't spend no more than 20 bucks. Food is pretty cheap in both spots, but when I was in Rio, I did feel like a few times I paid a little bit too much for food. And sometimes the food in Rio is not very good either. In Rio, if you're on the beach, or the closer to the beach that you are, the food is going to get more expensive. So that brings me to my next point, and I actually think that the food in Sao Paulo is a lot better than the food in Rio. So when I'm in Brazil, I pretty much eat out for the most part. I don't really waste my time cooking out there because I don't want to waste my free time, because I don't live in Brazil. I want to spend as much time meeting people, learning things about the culture, and just exploring in general. Sao Paulo, in my opinion, has more food options. They have pretty much everything that Brazil has to offer, including food from northern Brazil, feijoada, those empanadas, and all that stuff. They also have some good food that you wouldn't expect. Italian food in Sao Paulo is really good, and they're really famous for their pizza. The reason is probably because they have so many people of Italian descent in Sao Paulo. And that also goes for Japanese food. Sao Paulo has a huge Japanese population. From what I researched, it's about 1.6 million Japanese people in Sao Paulo. They have their own district in Sao Paulo, which is called Liberdade. If you go there, you can find tons of Japanese food, and actually you can find a lot of different Asian food in general. It's pretty dope that you can find so many food options in Sao Paulo. It's not surprising since Sao Paulo is the biggest city in South America. If I had to compare Sao Paulo and Rio to US cities, I would probably say that Sao Paulo is like New York and Rio is like Miami. So the next thing is transportation. Sao Paulo has extremely good transportation. You can use Uber, subway, or bus. All are super efficient and extremely affordable. Uber is super cheap, especially if you're coming from, like I said, US, Canada, or Europe somewhere. On average, I'd say a 15 to 20 minute ride is about $2.50 US dollars. The bus is about 75 cents, and the train is probably about $1. The train actually might be the best option a lot of times in Sao Paulo because Sao Paulo is notorious for traffic. So I'll probably say the last thing that I really like about Sao Paulo over Rio is that they have a lot of really nice parks. This is just a personal thing. I really enjoy going to parks. I feel like they're a good place to work out at, meditate, just take a stroll, do all that type of stuff. I haven't been to a ton of parks in Sao Paulo, but the few parks that I have been to were really dope. And I went to one called Parque Villa Lobos, and Parque Villa Lobos pretty much had everything that I could ask for from a park. They got hoop courts, soccer fields, calisthenics equipment, bicycle rentals, trees, gardens. They have food vendors. It's definitely something that you should experience when you go to Sao Paulo. I still haven't even gotten a chance to hit up the most famous park in Sao Paulo, which is Ibirapuera Park. That park is supposed to be like Central Park. I've rode by in an Uber and it looked really dope, but I gotta check it out the next time I go out there. So that's pretty much it in terms of my evaluation on Sao Paulo versus Rio. In my opinion, if I had to live in one of the places, it's a tough decision, but I probably would say I would like to live in Sao Paulo. If I had to visit, it just depends on what type of vibe I'm on. If I really just want to chill out and have a super relaxed trip, not really go out and just kind of walk around, chill at the beach, do all that type of stuff, I would definitely recommend hitting up Rio. But if you want to go out, do a lot of exploring, move around on transportation, go to museums, try different types of food, meet local people, all that different types of stuff, I would recommend going to Sao Paulo. Personally, I feel like there's a time and a place for both. If I lived in Brazil, I'll probably be going back and forth to both on a regular, and also just exploring other places, because those are the only two places I've really been in Brazil. I mean, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with either place. Both of them have really good food. They're both extremely affordable. Both have extremely dope nightlife. They have a lot of daytime activities you can do. You can check out all different types of museum, monuments, Christ the Redeemer, all that type of stuff. And they both have extremely beautiful women. So, I mean, they're both great for working out. If you do calisthenics like I do, if you're in Rio, you can work out at those beach workout stations. If you're in Sao Paulo, you can work out at the parks. Both have good food. They both have really good nightlife, and they're both super cost effective. So you can't really lose. But anyways, y'all, that's all I got for this video. If you guys differ from my opinions in terms of the things that I like about both of these cities, go ahead and leave that in the comment section if you've been to both. Also, if you have any questions, leave those in the comment section. Go ahead and like the video. Once again, subscribe to the video, and I'd love to hear you guys chime in. Stay tuned to the channel. I got more Brazil content coming soon. Thanks for checking out the video, y'all. Peace.